here. So hello, everybody. Thank you guys so much for joining our workshop. This is the own versus rent workshop, where hopefully, again, you're able to just at the very least self-assess where you're at and be able to take away the information necessary for you to be able to make the best decision for you and your family. I do see camera number one looks stuck, but that's the man, Voltaire Lepe, right there, owner and CEO, real estate broker here at Lepe Tendwell Properties. Voltaire, are you in a position right now to introduce yourself, or is network a little choppy over there? Oh man, we're gonna have to work on upgrading your Wi-Fi, Voltaire. No, we can't hear you though.
Okay. All right.
All right, Voltaire's gonna try again, call in. Again, my name is Raul here, Lepe Tendwell Properties, licensed realtor. And here I have my partner, Claudia, my partner in crime. Claudia, go ahead and introduce yourself for us.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Claudia, and I am part of the Leopard Team.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll go ahead and get started. I know Voltaire wanted to say hello and introduce himself and whatnot, but let's go ahead and get started. When he gets back with his access, then we'll loop him back in. But I wanted to kick you guys off with, at the very least, the real estate market. So let's go over what's happening in the real estate world. Can you guys see my screen all right? All right, cool. Getting some thumbs up. So this is the monthly housing report. This is kind of what's happening with the real estate market. I'm sure at the beginning of the year, you guys heard that it was taking about $50,000 to sometimes $100,000 above asking to even get a property. Properties were flying off the shelves, literally. I mean, it was, I want to say from the moment that you put a for sale sign up on your front lawn to the moment that you get a buyer into escrow and accepted contract, it took about 17 days, which is crazy fast. We started the year off with 1,400 homes on the market. That was 1,400 and some change houses available for sale. And just to give you some insight, this time of year, we should have right around 6,000 to 7,000 houses for sale. And right around January time, historically, we're at right around 5,000 homes for sale. So that's just to give you an idea of how low we came into 2022 in terms of inventory was. And oh boy, what a difference a year makes, because buying a house today is very different than buying a house July last year, even August last year. But this is kind of what's been happening. In the last couple of weeks, we added 138 homes onto the market. We're up 3% in terms of inventory, active inventory. So we're sitting at just over 4,800 active listings on the market. This is actually the highest level of inventory that we've had in San Diego County since July 2020, since 2 years ago. Again, things are getting pretty crazy out here. So in terms of demand, we have about 2,000 active buyers that are actively searching for a home, which is very neat to hear, because when we started off the year earlier, I mentioned we had just over 1,400 homes available for sale, but we had about 3,500 active buyers. So we had pretty much double the amount of buyers that there were in terms of inventory. And now things have shifted a little bit differently. So now we have double the amount of inventory compared to the amount of people that we actually have out there shopping, which is a little bit of a refresher for buyers, especially for buyers returning to the market, because it was a grueling, defeating market. I mean, it took a lot to buy a house the last couple of years, right? With that being said, a house that sells, I mean, a house in San Diego County, if it's selling below 60 days on the market, it's a hot seller's market. That means the sellers typically are calling the shots. If it's selling anywhere between 90 and 60 days, that means that it's a slight seller's market. So what does that mean? That means that the sellers still have the upper hand, but they don't have as much leverage as they did back when it was selling below 60 days. And it was just really a seller's market. They were calling the shots. So we started off the year, I want to say with about 17 days on the market. Now we're at 67 days on the market. Again, from the moment that you put your for sale sign on the front lawn to the moment that you actually get a buyer to buy that house, it's taken about 67 days on the market. And that's actually resulting with sellers right now, they're reducing the prices. So sellers right now, they're saying, hey, my neighbor sold for 800,000 3 months ago. I want 800,000 for my house today. But here's something that they're not taking into consideration. Several months ago, let's go back into January, the rate was about 3.25. Today, the rate is about 5.5, close to 6%. So what does that mean for you as a buyer? That means that for you as a buyer, your payment today for that same $800,000 house is about $800 more a month, right? I'll say that again. If you bought in January compared to today, that same $800,000 house is costing you about $800 more a month, right? Now, with that being said, buyers are not willing to overpay for properties like they were back in January and earlier months, right? Because affordability now is a factor. So what's happening? Now houses are staying a lot longer on the market. 67 days is the average, and 35% of the listings out there are actually reducing their prices. So sellers slowly but surely are starting to adjust to this new reality of, hey, this market is starting to slow down, and you don't really have people begging to buy a house like they were back in January and months prior to that. A little bit about foreclosures and short sales. Everybody's comparing this market to what happened back in 08, 09, back to the Great Recession when the market crashed, really is what happened. And I have a question for the audience. Let's see if I can have a brave soul. Can anybody guess roughly how many people were in distress, meaning in a foreclosure or short sale situation that needed to sell their house back in like 08, 09 when the market was crashing? Feel free to throw it in the chat, raise your hand, or just unmute yourself and throw out a number. Can we get a few guesses? Does anybody have a wild guess as to how many people were in a distressed situation back in those times? Because today we got 14 people in a county with 3.3 million people. I'll just, for the sake of time, tell you
30,000.
30,000. Very good guess, but it wasn't that many. It was actually about 8,000 people. A little bit over 8,000 people were in a foreclosure or short sale situation. Today we have 14 people. So what does that mean? That means that people today can actually afford their payment compared to back in leading up to that crash over there. Now, new construction. 2019, 2020, new builders, new developers, they were averaging about 6,600 new homes being built on an annual basis. Leading up to the crash 05, 06, we were building about 16,000 new homes on an annual basis leading up to the crash. So we're underbuilding now. We're oversupplying the market leading up to the crash. So that, long story short, we're still short 125,000 housing units in San Diego County alone. So in order for there to be a crash, we as real estate professionals are saying, hey, for us to really realistically say as a realtor to say, hey, there's really going to be a crash, we are saying we're needing to see anywhere between 7,000 to 8,000 homes to hit the market before we can actually see a crash because of inventory being so low. And we're just asking ourselves, okay, where is this inventory even going to come from? Because people are not in distress. Just about everybody can make their payment. We're not building enough houses, and we're still at 125,000 housing units short. Well, we don't really see where people are going to start listing their houses for no reason. And actually 99% of the listings out there are people just wanting to sell because they want to, not necessarily because they have to. So that is just the housing market in San Diego County in a nutshell. And just to give you one last quick little stat, the average sale price in San Diego is about 850,000, and the average list price is 830,000. So what does that tell us? That tells us that people are still paying more for the property than what it was listed for. That's kind of what's happening with the sale things. A little bit about what's happening with the rental market. 99% of the rentals out there, they're taken up. So everybody looking for a rental right now is literally fighting for 1% of the available rentals out there in San Diego County. I just had a buddy reach out to me last week, and he says that he was going after several rentals, one of which was one of ours that we were running on the property management. So I was able to get the inside scoop. I couldn't give him the upper hand to get accepted, right? But anyhow, it was a regular 2-bed, 1-bath unit. There were over 15 applicants for this particular unit, and that's just across the board what's happening. Rentals, they're just being targeted heavily because people just don't want to buy right now for whatever reason, and that's ultimately resulting in a lot of competition with rentals. And it's honestly getting a little bit tougher to rent, in my opinion, than it is to buy. Claudia, when's the last time that you submitted an offer and you had to compete with like 15 offers, 20 offers? Because for me, it's been a while.
Yeah, about 2 months.
Yeah,
The last time.
it's been a few months before, it used to be the norm. We're submitting offers for our clients and you're competing 15, 20, 30 offers are on the table that the seller has to choose from. Now, the average that I'm seeing is about 5. What are you seeing out there, Claudia?
Yeah, I think about it's usually, if not 1 or 2, I would say 3 to 5.
Yeah, 3 to 5, I think is what I'm seeing as the average as well, compared to 15 to 20. I mean, the numbers just aren't in your favor at that point. So that's kind of what's happening with the real estate market in a nutshell. A little bit of some insight as to what's happening with the rental market. So if you're thinking about renting, just be prepared for a nice little battle.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So let's see here. I want to share my screen one more time. Or actually, Claudia, could you help
Yes.
me run the next screen here?
Yeah, to start the,
Yeah, go ahead and let's kick it off.
okay, perfect. Oh, wait, what are you looking at? Or what
Yeah,
screen are you looking at? Are you looking
we're
at
seeing the own versus rent, the slideshow presentation that you got going on
Uh-huh.
for us.
Let me see. Sorry, double screen problems.
Yeah, no worries. What
Does-
questions does anybody in the audience have? I want to make this very interactive. If anybody has any questions, please let us know. Claudia, you started sharing the wrong screen.
Did it stop?
Yeah.
I don't know where it's not letting me click on the right one. Let me see. Let me find it again.
Here,
Do
I
you
got you.
sit there?
I got you. Oh, you did it. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Cool. So
Here
this
we
is
go.
the own versus rent presentation, right? So the Lepe
Covered.
team, who are we? The Lepe team. So the Lepe team over here, it's a brokerage. We have several agents, but we have a very tight, close-knit team over here. Voltaire Lepe, he's a real estate broker, the CEO of the company. He's a founder. He's founded Lepe Tendwell Properties. Under our team specifically, we have Claudia and myself as real estate agents that are actively helping out families on an annual basis. We help over 80 families on an annual basis. The average realtor helps about 4 to 5 families. So we're heavily involved in the market. And we also have Vanessa. She's our team support. And essentially what she does is she helps Claudia and I whenever we're unavailable to help a client. So go ahead and hit the next one. So what's happening with the real estate market? We already kind of talked about that. So let's talk about the renter. Claudia, tell us a little bit about what's happening with the renters right now.
Right now, I feel like it's still well, for renters, it's very competitive. I would say more so than the market. It's, I think, harder, it seems, to apply for a rental now than a mortgage application.
Yeah, one of the rules that I heard is you got to make 3 times more than what the rent is. And if you're trying to rent, say, a 3-bed, 2-bath, I think is the most common unit mix that I'm seeing that people want. If you want to rent a 3-bed, 2-bath in San Diego, no matter where you're at, I mean, you can go to the hood out here in Logan, it's going to be at least $3,000 a month. So that means that if you want a 3-bed, 2-bath in the hood here in Logan, which is all love over here, it's you got to make at least $9,000 a month, and San Diego actually was listed as, I don't know if it was the most, but it was definitely in the top 5, if not the top 3 of the most expensive cities to live in terms of affordability, right? What does that mean? That means that, I apologize if I offended anybody by calling Logan the hood. I didn't mean to apologize to offend anybody, but anyhow, San Diego is compared, or is actually said to be one of the most expensive cities to live in. So what does that mean? We're looking at it in the affordability aspect. So with the affordability, we're looking at the medium income compared to the cost of goods and real estate out over here. So if you look at it in San Francisco, houses in San Francisco cost a lot more, but the average income or the medium income in San Francisco is also a lot more. So if you compare that to the San Diego medium income, the gap is just a lot larger. So that makes it a lot more expensive to be able to live out here in San Diego.
Yep. Well said. So should we start with the rental facts?
Yeah, absolutely. Kick us off, Claudia.
You might have a lower monthly payment or lower rent than versus a mortgage payment.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a rental fact. Right now, if you want to rent compared to buying a house, yeah, your payment's a lot lower. I mean, if you want to rent a 3-bed, 2-bath house, your rent's going to be at least $3,000, $3,500. If you want to buy that same house, your mortgage probably be closer to like $4,000. So yeah, you're definitely going to pay more monthly if you want to buy a house. The
Next.
return on investment, return on investment. What type of return on investment do we get on rentals? Not
Next.
much, not much. I think the only benefit really is that if you get a leaky roof, I mean, you get to call the landlord, but that's really the only benefit.
Yeah, and on that fact, I think it's important to know, or as realtors, sometimes we have walk-ins asking, for other rentals, and they're heartbroken that they lived in a property for so many years. I've had ladies come in and say, like, can you believe I've been living here for 20 years? My son was born in this home, and they're giving me a 60-day notice. And it's sad to see. So yeah, the return on investment is zero, and it's probably hard to swallow, but that is a fact.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a fact. I mean, there's really no control. There's there's no certainty with that either. And not only that, but I mean, whether you realize it or not, everyone here is paying a mortgage. If you're paying to live somewhere, you're paying a mortgage. It's either your mortgage or your landlord's mortgage, but you're paying a mortgage. If you're a renter, again, you're paying a mortgage, it's just not yours. And that's kind of what we mean by return on investment. If you're renting, you're not taking advantage of any of the ways that you can make money, which we'll get into. And actually, this kind of reminded me, Claudia and I, we're going to go over the 5 different ways of making money in real estate, because a lot of people know of just the one, which is just rental income as a landlord. There's actually 5 different ways that you can make money with real estate. We're going to go over them. If at the end of the call, anybody can type it in on the chat at the end of the call, or just unmute yourself and tell us, we'll mail you a gift card, a Starbucks gift card. So just keep an eye out for those, right? So then you got landlord restrictions, right? So rental fact, landlord restrictions. If I want to paint my house and as a renter, guess what I got to do? I got to call my landlord and say, hey, Mr. Landlord, can I paint my house blue or whatever it is, even on the inside? Hey, Mr. Landlord, can I get a dog? Well, yeah, no, you can't get a dog, or yes, you can get a dog, but it can't be but it can't be a pit bull, or it can't be bigger than or heavier than 35 pounds, right? So now you got to ask for permission. You need permission to almost live a regular life, like just having a dog, right? So you have a lot more restrictions.
Yeah.
And then you got the rent trap. So the rent trap, I mean, a lot of us kind of fall into the rent trap, and actually our own CEO fell into this rent trap. He was paying $1,300 in North Park in an area where his rent probably should have been $2,500. And to him, he was thinking to himself, well, shoot, why get a mortgage that's $3,500 when I'm renting in a really good area for $1,300? He's like, I'm saving. But in all reality, he was losing, because again, there's 5 different ways to make money in real estate. And he was just losing. What's the next bullet point, Claudia? And then you got the low available rentals. Again, 99% of the rentals out there, they're gone. So you're fighting for 1% of the rentals with the rest of San Diego County. And the last thing is rent control. So let's go into the next slide, rent control. So back in 2020, January 2020, a law was passed where now there's rent control. So landlords cannot just come in and say, hey, I want to raise your rent $1,000 or $500, whatever it is, crazy amounts. They can't do that anymore. They actually can only raise it a certain percentage. Now, I won't dive into the intricacies of the actual law itself. I'll just use rule of thumbs, because I'd hate to misguide anybody. So if you want to get a specific information as to how the law actually definitively works, I recommend that you connect yourself with a tax advisor or potentially a real estate attorney, because again, we don't want to misguide, but I'm going to go over the rule of thumb with us real quick. So as it sits today, landlords can only raise their rent right around 10%, right? Anywhere between 9 and 10%. So really it's the rate of inflation plus CPI, right? That's really what it is, the formula, but let's say 10% for easy numbers, right? So let's see how this kind of works out. So this is the same house, right? 3-bed, 2-bath house. If you buy that house, it's probably going to cost you around $700,000, right? And your payment for this house is $5,000, $5,002. If you rent the same house, and we ran these analysis, right? If you rent the same house, your rent, you can rent that same house for about $4,000. And that's that rent trap. As a renter, you're going, why am I going to pay $5,000 when I can rent it for $4,000 and save $1,000 a month, right? Well, check this out. 10% year after year, right? Year one, $4,000 a month. Then year two, they raise it 10%. So now you're paying $4,400 a month. And then so on and so forth. You keep going, right? Go back to the last one, Claudia. So let's see real quick. It takes you 4 years. So by your 4th year, you're already paying more than the person who locked in their payment for 30 years, right? You're paying $53.24 a month on year 4 compared to your neighbor who decided to buy 4 years later. They're still paying $5,000 a month. I don't know about you, but I know a lot of people, and this might even be you, that I have been renting for several years. I'm talking 5, 10 years, maybe even 15 years. We probably know a friend that's been doing that, family members that have been doing that. Now think about this. Back then, they didn't really have rent control. So if you had a landlord that just wanted to hook you up, they're just hooking you up. But today, especially if you're living in, say, a duplex, a fourplex, or a complex, an apartment complex, the way that those properties are evaluated in terms of value is compared to how much income it's bringing. So if the landlord's hooking everybody up on the rent, keeping the rent really low, when it comes to sell, that landlord's going to lose on hundreds of thousands of dollars because of that low rent. And he can't just go and raise it from one day to another to market rents because he's capped at 10%. So landlords now, they're kind of forced to raise your rent religiously 10% every single year to keep up with the market. So if they ever want to sell, they're in a position to be able to do so and not have to lose out on so much money. Now let's go down to the principal pay down aspect of things, right? Because say you buy that house and you're saying, okay, Raul, well, right now home values, they're kind of stagnant, right? They're not really going up. Some say that they're going down a little bit. In our opinion, we've seen them go down about 10%, right? Home values. So let's see what that means to you, right? Say that house in 4 years is still worth 700,000. Let's not even account for home values going up. So in 4 years, scroll down, Claudia. That's month 48. So that means that your loan balance on the bottom right, or kind of in the middle, you see a 626,020. So that's your loan balance. So after 4 years, every single one of your payments, you're chipping away slowly but surely. You're chipping away at this loan amount that you have. And that's kind of serving as a piggy bank to your mortgage, right? So Claudia, can you pull out your calculator real quick?
Yes. What is it?
Can you share it on the screen for us?
Oh, like on my screen.
Yeah. I want everybody to
cell phone.
see the magic real quick. So if you buy a $700,000 house, you're making your payment for 4 years. Say you didn't gain
Can
any
you see my
appreciation.
calculator on the screen?
No, we can't. But tell you what, why don't you go back to the other screen? We already did the math.
Yeah.
So you're actually made $73,980 in equity. So that's the difference between $700,000 and the loan amount that you would have owned or owed at the end, right? So that gap between what you owe on your mortgage compared to what your property is worth, that gap is your equity. That's your net worth. That's your money. That's your savings account. That's that piggy bank that I was talking about. So if all else fails and you're not at the very least getting any type of appreciation with your property, then you can count on the principal pay down aspect of things by paying down your mortgage month after month. And eventually you're going to build up equity there. So what I'm trying to say is the renter at the end of 4 years, the only thing they have to show for is a higher monthly payment compared to the person who bought. Well, guess what? They locked in their mortgage for 30 years. So their payment's not going to change for 30 years unless they go and refinance or sell the house and get another one. And at the same time, in 4 years, they can potentially have about $73,000 in equity. And again, this is just keeping the same value of 700,000 and just paying your mortgage every single month.
Good stuff.
Oh,
Thank you
yeah.
for breaking it down. Now let's talk about the homeowner.
Yeah, this homeowner. So go ahead and click on the next one. So the homeowner, he's got a fixed payment his payment's going to stay the same for 30 years. We have some clients that we meet with. So one thing that we personally do is we meet with all of our clients once a year and we assess their situation, right? We look at their assets, we look at their mortgages, and we let them know what moves they have available to them to be able to reach whatever real estate goals they have. And at the very least, we help them identify the moves that they have available to them to be able to grow and build on their net worth, right? So we met with this client that bought about 7 years ago, and we did the math. Their payment today is $1,200 for a 2-bed, 1-bath, single family house. And today, if somebody were to buy that same house today, the payment would have been closer to $3,500 a month, right? So that person today looks like a genius because they bought 7, 8 years ago with a $1,200 payment. So everybody's looking at them like they're a genius, but when they were buying that house, they were really scared. That was a lot of money. $1,200 8 years ago, that was a lot of money. So these people, you get to keep that same payment. So right now, if you're buying a $800,000 house at $5,000 payment, it may seem like a lot right now, but just keep in mind that with any new purchase, you're going to have to get adjusted to this new budget of yours. And eventually, with inflation, with pay raises, with promotions, that payment's just going to look like nothing. And 5 to 7, 10 years later, people are going to look at you like you're a genius. Not only that, but you can literally make money while you sleep. We already talked about one, which was principal pay down, right? You're not doing anything special. You're just literally just paying your mortgage every single month, and you're already making money through that principal pay down, right?
Yep.
What's the next one? Leverage. What type of leverage, Claudia? Tell us about OPM. What's OPM?
No, you tell us.
Other people's money.
Yes.
That's OPM right there. That's my favorite thing right there, because in the United States, we are lucky enough to be able to borrow so much money to be able to buy a house. I heard through my real estate broker that in like places like Canada, Europe, or even Mexico, and I haven't fact checked this, right? This is just something that I heard through conversation with my broker. He said that in places like that, you have to come in with like minimum like 30% or like 35% down, like a ridiculously high number. So if you wanted to buy a house, you got to save like 30, 40% down. Over here, you can buy a house with as little as 3.5% down, sometimes even 3% down. If you're a military veteran or active military, you can even buy with 0 down payment. So you can literally use other people's money to be able to buy yourself an asset that's going to make you money while you sleep, right? Not only that, but you have options to grow now as a homeowner. If you have a mortgage, you overall just already look like a better borrower in the eyes of creditors. Why? Because a mortgage is typically the biggest expense that anybody is going to really incur throughout your life, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but I can't see myself buying another $500,000 toy or asset aside from properties, right? So it's going to be the biggest expense. So the bank is saying, hey, if you can handle a $500,000 mortgage, $800,000 mortgage, whatever it is, yeah, sure thing. I'll let you borrow 20 grand to buy this car with my eyes closed, whatever it is, right? Your first home will typically pay for your second. In the last couple of years, the last 2 years in a row, we've experienced, give or take, about 20% in appreciation, meaning that home values went up 20%. So we had a lot of our clients coming back that sacrificed, bought smaller condos, and were now able to leverage that equity and use that as a down payment for their next house, the bigger house, the house that they really wanted the first time around. And they really didn't have to do anything other than just make your payment, every single month. We had one client that's purchased a condo. It was a 2-bed, 1.5-bath condo. It was a married couple with 3 kids. It was stay-at-home wife. My man worked and paid all the bills himself, and he bought this condo with $7,800 out of his pocket. I want to say this was like 7 years ago. Just last year, we sold this condo. He was able to put 20% down on a 4-bed, 2-bath home on a 10,000 square foot lot. And he was able to keep, I think, like 10 to 15 grand in his pocket after the sale. And his payment stayed pretty close to what his payment was with that condo as well. And again, he didn't save up 20%. He didn't save up for any of that. He literally just had $7,800 to buy his first one, lived in it for several years, and literally traded his condo for a big bad house that he really, really wanted, right? And he finally gave his family the space that he needed. I remember walking through his house, and I just remember seeing 3 mattresses lined up in 1 bedroom. I'm like, oh man, like once I saw that and I saw how accomplished he was getting, I mean, with the house that he was buying, it was very, very rewarding to be able to see that. Not only that, but that equity right there, it could serve for a college fund or even a retirement fund or even a life event fund, right? Um, a lot of us have kids and we know that college is not getting any cheaper, right? If you have $200,000 in equity, that might be your ticket to send your kid into medical school or whatever it is, right? If we had a client that Claudia's going to tell us about that was a first time buyer pretty late in her life, and that helped serve as a retirement fund. But I'll let Claudia get into the nitty gritty of that one. But just know that overall, real estate just gives you options, right? Compared to the person that's renting at the end of 5-7 years, they don't have much to show for it.
Yeah, and I think that's like the beauty of becoming a homeowner. Like this whole new world opens up to you, and it's almost like a safety net that it gives you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I don't think that you can put a price on peace of mind for sure. I mean, if a rainy day comes by and you know you can tap into that equity, that's definitely peace of mind for sure, especially if you're a parent like myself.
Yeah,
All right,
definitely.
Claudia, tell us about the 5 ways to make some money.
5 ways to make money as an owner. First one is principal pay down. You pay your principal pay down every month. Number 2, with appreciation, your home will go up in value. It's always better to hold long term, if you want that appreciation to grow. You can have the next one, Raul.
Yeah, absolutely. So like Claudia said, principal pay down, we kind of did the math right now where the person literally just bought the house and just made the payment for 4 years and they already had $73,000 available to them in equity appreciation. You know, the market's going to do what it does. Just like the stock market's going to go up, it's going to go down, but eventually long-term real estate always wins, right? So your property values are always going to go up. So literally all you got to do is just stay alive for that time, really, and just making money while you sleep. One of somebody's personal experience, their real estate portfolio actually went up $1 million without lifting a finger. Between this person's real estate portfolio, all the properties that they owned, because of the appreciation that we experienced the last 2 years, their properties combined went up in value $1 million. So if that person wanted to, they could have sold everything and cashed out $1 million just like that, literally making money while you sleep. Then you have depreciation, right? And that kind of correlates with a little bit of the tax write-offs. You can go in and actually save a lot of money on taxes. And I'll refer you to your tax advisor to be able to advise you the right way to do this. But you can actually write off a lot of the stuff that you're paying for your house, right? Not only the interest that you're paying on your mortgage, but actually I was having a very good conversation with a very experienced investor, and he was talking about cost segregation about with his real estate, and he was pretty much saying like, hey, this is how the really wealthy really just kind of avoid paying taxes. And I can't really explain the math. I'll refer you to a tax advisor, but he was pretty much saying, hey, between all of my properties, and the same person that made $1 million while they slept, he was pretty much saying like, hey, I can literally write off $600,000 to zero, but not like a regular tax write-off, not like a regular write-off, regular 1099 write-off. That's going to be like, oh, I bought a car, writing that off, right? That's going to look like expenses to run your business. So at the end of the year, if you write everything off in the eyes of the bank, it's going to look like you made no money. But with writing off the depreciation, the way they explained it, it was in a way where you can write off the depreciation, but still look like you made money. So you're still a strong borrower. So you can still buy real estate. You can still get a loan for the car, whatever it may be. Right. And then the one that everybody knows is the rental cash flow, right? Just being the landlord, just having somebody else pay your mortgage and just cashing in on some positive cash flow every single month. But those are the 5 ways that you can make money in real estate.
Yeah, good stuff. My
Yeah.
favorite, cash flow.
Oh, yeah. But it's never too late. And this is a
It's
story
never,
time.
yeah,
This is one of my favorite stories.
it is story time with Claudia. So yeah, like Raul, I'm gonna stop the share just so.
Yeah.
Um, um, so like Raul was mentioning, I had a client that I met. Voltaire had helped her 2008. She was, I want to say in her 50s, 45 to 50 years old. She bought a 2008, bought a condo at 205,000, FHA 3.5 down. So that's like about 7,000 down, and she lived in it for 14 years. And just this year, a couple weeks ago, she sold it. She sold to in 2022 for 530,000. So she made over 300,000 in equity. And I think the beauty of her story is that, one, she was already at an older age. I helped her, you know, pack and on her journey to move out of state. And I don't think she realized how good she set herself up, because, we don't think about our older years. We don't think about, when we get to the 70s, 80 years old. And she was able to secure herself on a low monthly payment that she was able to afford San Diego still. And yet she did that. And she also secured herself some retirement money that even at that age, she was still able to cash out and now go live at a state where maybe it's, less expensive, and she can still take care of herself. And I think that's, super major or big highlighter for me as to why I want everyone to be a homeowner, because even if it's a small condo, yes, you have a neighbor and yes, you share a wall, but it's going to be yours. And once in the future, maybe you just rent it out, and once you're ready to make another move, or just like Miss Mariana, she had to move out of state and she did well for herself. And I'm so proud of her. So I was super happy for her. And I just was like, man, I want to be like you. And she was like, really? And I was like, yeah, because most people don't buy and then rents go up, or you get that you're paying $900 rent, you get your 60-day notice, and then you're forced to go rent with real rent rates, right? So then you have to pay $2,100 for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. And who at age 60, 70 is making that money, or who sets themselves up to get that a month?
Not only
So,
that, but a lot of people that age, they're working on a fixed income, especially if you're retired, so
yeah,
you can't, if you're working on a fixed income, you can't afford to have your rent continuously going up 10%, 10%, 10%. And just like Claudia mentioned, I mean, I'm not too sure how the rest of the financials look for this particular client, but how much did she cash in? Like 200 grand, 300 grand?
yeah,
I mean,
300.
if you're retiring, and you just came up on another $300,000 just because you decided to buy, and this is $300,000 on top of whatever you already worked so hard to save for in your retirement. You know what I'm saying? So if you can cash in on an extra $300,000 pad on your retirement, that's just priceless right there, especially with the cost of inflation. It was just an amazing story. So yeah, like Claudia said, it's never too late. And I heard somebody say this: you should be afraid of afraid. I'll say that again: you should be afraid of afraid. And I just kind of thought about that, and it took me a while to get that. And I was like, well, what does that even mean? Well, I should be scared of being scared, because if I'm scared, I get paralyzed. And I think a lot of us, is just human nature that when we get afraid, we become paralyzed, and we start to choose, okay, what's the safest move? And then we start playing defense rather than playing offense and going and getting yourself some assets, right? Miss Marianne, in this situation, she was playing offense. She was not looking to rent something. She bought herself something that she really wanted. Not only that, but it was in a really nice neighborhood over there in Rancho Penasquitos, right? And so being afraid really is going to paralyze us from taking the step, jumping in on the deep end, if you will, and really just taking the bull from the horns and just making the move that is so scary to make, but has the potential to have long-term benefits for you. So for sure.
Yeah, definitely that. And yeah, it's never too late. I don't know what I was going to say. The thought left.
Oh, it's okay. But I think
Okay.
you have one more slide. It's okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's time for you to
Question.
take control. So
Yeah.
like the slide
Take
says,
control.
if you're looking for a sign, this is it.
Yes.
Nobody's talking about this. Nobody's out here talking about the benefits of renting, talking about the benefits of owning, and really highlighting the differences on what really can take you further in the long term, right? So I appreciate everybody that joined this call, because that means that you really are taking control of your life and you're not staying paralyzed because of the higher interest rates or whatever's happening out here in the real estate world. And I just really wanted to open it up at this time for any questions. But before we do so, I wanted to give y'all the opportunity to throw into the chat. The first person who can throw it in the chat, the 5 ways to make some money, I'll send y'all a gift card, a Starbucks gift card. So I don't know if anybody wants to participate, throw something in the chat. But while we have people throwing their answers in the chat, I also wanted to open it up for some Q&A. I know a lot of this perhaps may have gone a little bit fast. So I want to give everybody the opportunity to be able to ask whatever questions. All questions are welcome. And yeah, let's make this a little bit interactive. What questions do y'all have?
Any questions? Did we cover everything? Any feedback? You can also throw out your feedback. Or you can unmute yourself if anybody wants to share a story, a fact, and this is, oh wait, we're getting the questions there, right?
Yeah, so the first question that I see here is, given the market right now, is it okay to buy now?
Yep.
And so most realtors are out here to cash a check. So they're going to tell you yes. My answer is going to be a little bit differently, right? And I think it's going to vary on the professional whom which you are speaking with. Now, this is the advice that we're giving out here. If you are renting right now and you're going to live in the property, buy. Definitely buy. Again, if you're just renting, you're throwing money away. You have nothing to show for it, really, aside from the roof over your head. But if you're buying, even if property values don't go up, which eventually they'll come around, at the very least, you're using your mortgage as a piggy bank. And at the very least, in 4 years, if you buy an $800,000 house, you can expect right around 70 grand worth of equity, right? Compared to renting for 4 years, all you really have to show for that is whatever you're putting into the savings account manually, right? So if you are an investor, if you're looking to invest and just continue to grow your real estate portfolio, I personally believe that there's a good deal no matter what the market is, right? Now, considering where the market is at right now, if you're an investor, we're telling our clients, hey, wait 6, maybe 8 months. We can get you a better deal towards the end of the year. Why? Because the market is correcting. We are seeing prices correct. They're not crashing, but they are correcting. But at the same time, financing, in our opinion, is going to keep getting more expensive throughout the end of the year. So we believe that in 6 to 8 months, that for investors, it'll make more sense. But if you're renting right now, definitely get yourself a property.
Yeah.
Claudia, do you have anything to add to that?
I did, but it kind of, it was, the question was, sorry, I was typing to set me there. Is it okay to buy now? Yes. So I've also learned that if you have all your ducks in the row, as far as like your credit score is good, your income is good, like, yes, why wait? If there's things that you have to work on, because you do need 2 years of good income, you do need a good credit score, or not a good, but at least over 620. And those things you have to, work on them. I would say talk to one of Lepe's Tendwell's agents and have them sit with you and plan out what your next moves are to get you to home buying. But if you can afford it, then yes, you should definitely be buying, and no matter what kind of market.
Yeah, 100%. And regardless of the market, whenever you do decide to buy, just know that you're probably going to have to make some lifestyle changes. For example, I had several families that were they had a tough time acclimating to the higher payment, right? And pretty much what they were saying is like, shoot, Raul, like I know I qualify for this amount, but I want to keep my purchase price at this amount because my payment comfort level is here, right? Now, the house they wanted was not at the price point here, is at the price point up here. So long story short, I mean, I had clients telling me directly like, hey, Raul, I guess I'm going to have to sacrifice going to Sunday brunch every week maybe do it once a month, stuff like that. Little lifestyle changes, little sacrifices now that'll take you a long way in the future for sure. Wanda asked if we are familiar with the Good Neighbor Next Door program. I've heard a little bit of it. I know that there are some restrictions to it. Like I think one thing that I heard was you got to stay in the property for at least 3 years. I'm not sure what the penalties are if you do sell the property beforehand. Claudia, are you familiar with that program?
I've only heard of it like lightly, no.
Yeah, sporadically here and there. Yeah, but I do have lenders that specialize in this. Lenders are the ones who, for the most part, know about just about every single program. They know the parameters for it. They know how to guide you through that and to even let you know if that's even a program that's best suitable for you. So Wanda, I'm going to throw in the company phone number on there so you can either call or you can text. And this is our office line. And you can reach out to us. And what we can do is set you up or at least get you in contact with a lender if you don't have a lender for yourself that you like, or you can reach out to this number or your favorite Lepe Tendwell agent, and we'll be able to get you in contact so that way you can get the information that you need. Art says, stay dangerous, my friend. Yeah, we got to stay dangerous. We got to go out there and get ours for sure. Yeah, our pleasure for answering that question. For sure, for sure. Art said, I've heard a 15-year fixed rate. What are the perks, downfalls compared to a 30-year fixed rate? In my experience, typically the biggest difference between a 15-year and a 30-year fixed rate is really just going to be the interest rate, right? Whenever it comes down to a bank's decision making, it's always going to come down to risk, right? What's going to reduce or mitigate the amount of risk that I'm taking here, right? And that's the reason why a person with a lower credit score will get a higher interest rate than a person with, say, a perfect credit score, right? So if I'm giving you money if I'm letting you borrow my money for 30 years, that means that I have 30 years worth of risk that you may just stop paying me at some point. But if I let you borrow at 15 years, that means that it's 50% less risk for me, because that means that you can default on me in 15 years compared to 30 years, right? So usually it's a less risk for the bank to give you a loan for 15 years. So you get usually a little bit more of a preferred interest rate. Not only that, but you also save money with the amount of interest that you're paying throughout the life of the loan as well. But with that does come with the higher payment for sure. Just to clarify the question, so it's okay to buy now no matter the market because of equity in the long run. Yeah, you got equity. Not only that, but you also got your principal pay down, right? Because that there's several ways to build up that equity, right? There's appreciation and there's principal pay down. Those are really going to be the main ones. But yeah, that equity is just really going to take you a long way. So for sure, for sure. And if you want more information on how we can set you up with your personalized plan, definitely reach out to your favorite Lepe Tendwell agent, and we'll be able to get you all the information for your personalized plan on how to become a homeowner.
Yeah, great
Yeah,
questions.
yeah, these are all great questions. Yeah.
What are the FHA? I'll pull those up. I have the.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and just keep in mind, we are real estate agents, so we don't necessarily do the loans ourselves, but we work with these on a daily basis. So we have a really good idea as to kind of, some of the parameters for sure. But let me know when you pull it up, Claudia. But in the meantime, I'll tell you this much. Some of the requirements for an FHA loan, usually you would need at least a 3.5% down payment of the sale price of the house. 3.5% of the sale price of the house would be your down payment. And really what an FHA loan, the biggest benefit that I've noticed, and Claudia, you tell me if you have a different opinion, is usually you're able to have more debt and you're able to buy with a lower credit score. And yeah, tell us a little bit about what you have there, Claudia.
Yeah, so that's one of the plus of using an FHA. Their guidelines are catered to a first-time buyer to, get your foot in the door. It does have that primary insurance, but I think it makes it worth when you can buy with at least a 580 credit score, a 3.5% of down payment off the purchase price, and your debt to income ratio can be 43%.
Yeah, and I've actually seen the rules kind of fluctuate a little bit on this on my personal experience with my clients. I've seen, because usually the cap that I've noticed is about 49% of your debt to income ratio. And for easy numbers, if you make $10,000 a month, the bank wants to make sure that like your car payment, your credit card payments, and all of those payments are not more than 49% of your income, which was $4,900, right? So they'll let you buy a house so long as, if you're making 10 grand, you're not dishing out more than 4,900 bucks of your monthly income and just in bills alone, right? With an FHA loan, you're able to sometimes go up to 55% of your debt to income ratio. So you're able to have 5,500 bucks worth of bills on a monthly basis instead of 49. So it's a little bit more lenient. And the way that that works is two ways. Either you are able to carry more debt, or you're able to buy more of a house, right? So your purchase power will go up just a little bit because, again, there's an extra 5 to 6% wiggle room of being able to carry more debt. So it's either carry more debt with my car loan and my credit card payments, or it's I'm going to carry a little bit more debt in terms of the monthly payment for my mortgage. So I can make that a little bit more and buy more of a house with a higher purchase price, if that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, really the requirements for an FHA loan, in my experience, are going to be very similar to just getting a home loan as a whole, right? Typically, lenders want to see at least 2 years worth of employment. They're going to want to verify your employment. They're going to want to verify your tax returns, your pay stubs, your bank statements. And when it comes down to your down payment, if you have cash as a down payment, the bank's going to want to do what's called season your money. So say you got your down payment, it's 30 grand, but you got it under your mattress, right? Well, the bank's not going to let you just deposit 30 grand and then buy a house with that, because they're looking out for money laundering, right? Is really the reason why. Now, with that being said, the bank's going to say, okay, put the money in the bank, tell us exactly where it came from. You're probably going to have to pay taxes on that money. And they're going to say, let it season in the bank for at least 60 to 90 days. You got to let it sit there for at least 60 to 90 days before you can actually use that money. I actually ran into one client, his experience, he deposited $8,000 in cash one day. And he was able to use everything in his savings account except for that $8,000. So again, I'm not sure exactly what the amounts are, but definitely if you do plan on buying a house and your bulk of your money is cash, definitely start putting that into the banking system so that way they can verify your funds.
Yep.
I got another question here. What about adjustable mortgages? So adjustable mortgages, in my opinion, I think that if you're going to get an adjustable rate mortgage, so an adjustable rate mortgage, for those that don't know, is essentially a mortgage rate that's always fluctuating, right? The mortgage rates are always changing, going up and down, kind of like the stock market, right? So one month your payment can be 2 grand, next month your payment can be 3 grand. It's always changing, right? So in my opinion, what I always say, if you're going to go into an adjustable rate mortgage, have some sort of exit strategy. What does that mean? Plan to refi, plan maybe to sell in maybe 4 or 5 years, whatever it is, have some sort of exit strategy. Just because if you're living with that uncertainty, that's kind of what led up to that crash back in 08, 09. The majority of people that bought had an adjustable rate mortgage, and it was a fixed payment for 2 to 5 years. But after year 2 to 5, your interest rate would adjust to whatever the feds had it that day. So a lot of the people's payments doubled and even tripled. They couldn't keep up with that payment. Can you imagine if your rent or your mortgage today just doubled or tripled? I mean, a lot of us will probably be trying to figure out, how we're going to make that payment, how we're going to eat the next day, So that's kind of what was happening 08, 09. And that's why a lot of people lost their houses. Now, I do know that Mission Federal right now, and this is the only adjustable rate program that I'm pushing or even advising on, is Mission Federal has a program right now where it's a 10-year fixed, right? So for 10 years, they'll give you a fixed rate, but after year 10, it's going to adjust, right? Now, why would somebody do that? Well, because right now the rates are 5.5%, close to 6%. But if you go with this Mission Fed program, and I'll double check on the rates, but right now I think you can get like a 4%. So you're saving on the interest right there. You're not paying mortgage insurance, which you're saving $300 to $400 a month. What's mortgage insurance? Well, unless you're putting 20% down, the bank's going to ask you to get this extra insurance so that if for whatever reason you just decide to stop paying your mortgage, this insurance is going to pay that 20% that you didn't put. So it's going to guarantee the bank 20% essentially. That's again $300 to $400 on your monthly payment. So with this Mission Fed loan, again, you got a 4% interest rate. You don't pay this mortgage insurance, and they're paying, I think, like $5 grand worth of your closing costs. So there's just a lot of benefits to it. But again, a lot of the clients that we're pushing that, they have some sort of exit strategy. They know it's not their forever home, and eventually they're going to sell and trade it for a bigger home, or they're going to refi into a better loan, maybe a 30-year fixed loan at some point, right? And the reason why we feel comfortable with those 10 years is because statistically, historically, the average family usually makes some sort of change 4 to 7 years, right? 4 to 7 years, something happens, right? Somebody is moving out, going to college, or somebody's having a baby. And so the housing needs change. So typically that's when you need to make some changes to your housing. So I hope I was able to answer your question about the adjustable rate mortgages.
Yeah, we have two more questions that I can see on my end. One from Art is, as realtors, is it a much easier transaction to work with private sellers than HOAs? What are your opinions on home condos up for sale under an HOA? I wasn't sure what he meant. I don't know if you can unmute yourself, Art, but private sellers.
I think he means like just a regular house without an HOA is what it sounds like to me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but either way, if you're dealing with an HOA, the only reason why it'll get a little bit tricky is because the HOA, the complex as a whole, for a bank to be able to give you a loan on that, they have to have good financials. So what does that mean? They have to have a nice savings account so that if for whatever reason the main plumbing line that serves every house in that complex goes out, they have money to fix that, right? They have to have a budget, a monthly budget, right? So they have to have like QuickBooks or whatever it is, right? They have to have their budget like explicitly illustrating how much money they're saving every month, how much money are they gaining every month, what are their bills, literally kind of like the budget that you have at home, right? So they have to have a budget. And if they don't have a budget, if they don't have reserves, that's going to be considered an unwarrantable condo or townhome, meaning that nobody really is going to lend on that. You got to buy that cash, right? So that's really the only caveat that I've experienced when it comes to buying or selling with an HOA community is you just got to make sure that the HOA is a strong HOA financially.
Yeah. And you can tell right away when you walk the property.
Yeah.
You'll see if it's well taken care of, if the landscaping is done, if you show up and the gate doesn't lock and it's like there's no
Yeah.
HOA.
Like you can tell if the property's just been neglected for a long time, for sure. And then yes, there for sure. If you're paying a mortgage, it's either yours or somebody else's, you decide, right? So yeah, I love that too. One more question says, if I am the sole proprietor, how would this work when applying for a house? Is it any different? Yeah, so self-employed people, one of the biggest mistakes that self-employed people make is tax write-offs, right? They say they make good money. Say they make, for easy numbers, $100,000. But to avoid or to reduce the amount of taxes that they're paying, they're going to start writing off things, right? For example, me as a realtor, I might write off my suits, my car, the gas that I spend because I drive to properties every single day, right? So I can start writing all of those things off. So if I make $100,000, but I say, hey, Mr. Tax Guy, I spent $80,000 on gas, a vehicle, clothes, on business lunches, right? So at the end, in the eyes of the government, I'm gonna say, okay, I made 100, but I need 80,000 as write-offs to operate my business. So really, I made 20 grand, right? So the bank's going to look at you and say, okay, you made 100, but you need 80,000 to even operate. So really you only made $20,000. So in the eyes of the bank, you're not going to look at a very strong borrower if you're just writing things off like crazy. Now, there are different programs where you can kind of go and avoid that. But for the most part, if you are thinking about buying before you do your taxes, let your tax professional know. Say, hey, I'm thinking about buying, and they'll advise you, because if you're not telling them, hey, I want to buy a house, they're probably going to tell you, hey, let me help you figure out a way to pay the least amount of taxes possible.
Yeah.
What type of homes have come into the market recently? Single family, condo, multifamily? Great question. I'm actually seeing a good mix of all of them, really. It's really a good mix of all of them. I mean, there's with the inventory being the highest it's ever been since July last year. I mean, I'm seeing a whole lot more of just everything: single family, multifamily, condos. I mean, especially right now, a lot of people know that we're at the peak of the market and housing prices are correcting right now. So a lot of people, I think, are panic selling at the same time just because they want to cash in on that high dollar amount. So they might be just throwing out their condos or houses out for sale just to test the market. And I think those are the ones that are staying on the market for like 90, 100 days, a lot more than what they should be.
Yeah, I agree. I
Yeah.
think it's a little bit of everything. Great
Yeah,
questions.
absolutely. But yeah, not one has really like significantly overpowered the other, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I really appreciate everybody for joining this call. I think this was a really good conversation that we all had. I think we all learned a thing or two. I think we had 2 winners for the Starbucks gift card. So if you haven't already, please send Claudia an email, or not an email, but a direct message right now with your address. That way we can mail that card to you. And I appreciate everybody's night. Thank you so much for coming in, and I hope you have a great evening.
Thank you, guys. Oh,
Great job, guys.
oh, thank you.
Thanks, Art.
Thanks,
Thank
Art.
you.
Thank you
Thank
guys for joining.
Oh, wait. Stop live.